We know that in 2007 we saw a massive influx of tourists hitting 1.04 million people. It is said that that number could be exceeded this year. So far we're doing pretty well. Do you think we could hit the over 1 million mark?
We actually expect to hit the over 1 million mark, because when you look at the trend from 2007, as you rightly observed, after the post-election violence, the numbers came down to about 729,000, and then in 2008 we hit 952,000, and this year we project to do perhaps close to 1.2 million in terms of international arrivals.
And in terms of the revenues that will come in, what kind of revenues are you expecting? Do you think it's going to lag behind the numbers? Obviously, we're seeing a lot of pressure coming through from the global tourist associations because people have less spending power, and of course prices have also come down quite extensively.
When we look at the statistics from January to June this year, we clocked in about 48 billion Kenyan shillings, 48.5 billion Kenyan shillings, and therefore we see this year the performance is way better than 2007 and way better than last year and the year before, and therefore there's a projection that we could reach 100 billion Kenyan shillings by the end of the year.
Fantastic. Well, looking at the market share from tourist arrivals, it seems the UK is still making up a significant portion. I mean, one only has to see the most recent news, which is good for Kenya. Of course, Prince William and Kate Middleton's engagement. And of course, we know the royal family has quite a long history when it comes to Kenya. Do you think it's going to diversify further out of the UK and perhaps seeing a bigger spread through other emerging markets?
When we look at the situation in the UK, since January to August this year, the market has not fully recovered in terms of comparative data between January to August this year as against 2007. However, the indications are that with the Prince William case, chances are that the UK market is going to rebound, because we've had quite a lot of inquiries on the Kenyan market, and we've also had quite a lot of issues pertaining to the Kenyan market being covered in the UK press, and we obviously see that this is going to contribute to some growth in numbers, and therefore we see the UK market performing better than perhaps would have been envisaged a little earlier.
The biggest portion of your tourists really come from Europe, but let's quickly look at the likes of China, which makes up 2.4% of market share. Do you expect that to increase?
We have seen a very strong growth coming from the emerging markets, and when we talk of the emerging markets, we're talking about the BRIC countries, basically Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and indeed also other countries like Australia, India, the Gulf Cooperation countries, and so on. And when you talk about China, perhaps specifically, we see a growth of about 64% above the previous period of 2007. And therefore, China is a well-performing market. We obviously see much more potential in terms of the numbers, and we actually expect that the market is going to grow much more than it has. But you are right, yes. China, we see strong growth from there, and of course other countries like India.
Conference tourism, it seems that is definitely an opportunity for Kenya to leverage on further, given the fact that increased business coming through for the East African community as a whole. Apparently not enough has been done to up the infrastructure. What kind of focus will you have into 2011 to ensure that conference tourism does increase?
We are working very closely with the Ministry of Tourism, because we have our own international conference center, which has been holding quite a number of conferences in the immediate past. But we do know that in terms of infrastructure, in terms of facility, we are not yet up there. We don't have enough capacity. But together with the Ministry of Tourism and other government agencies, there's a plan to have another conference facility, perhaps in a city like Mombasa, so that it can supplement what is available in Nairobi. Besides that, also, there are lots of international hotels that have facilities for conferencing, and indeed we see a strong growth in MICE going forward.
Muriithi, also just one of those peripheral topics that perhaps is going to hamper tourism perceptions on Kenya is the Alcoholic Drinks Control Act, which has come to the fore. So essentially, you can't buy alcohol before 5 p.m. during the week and before 2 p.m. during the weekend. And just looking at some of the trends in Europe, it seems that most tourists do enjoy drinking far earlier than those hours that are stipulated. Do you think that will be a dampener going forward?
The bill has only just recently been introduced, and the law has only just recently been put into practice. I know the stakeholders are discussing with the government, but we are yet to see the effect in terms of the actual situation on the ground. So perhaps going forward, we'll see the effect, and I'm sure the relevant government bodies will take it up.
Muriithi, how much money is going to be spent on Kenya's tourism sector into 2011?
We look at the financial year for the government is from July to June, and for this financial year we have about 850 million Kenya shillings. We are now looking at the next financial year, whether the government is going to add a little bit more so that we can be able to engage the full activities that we have lined up for the next financial period.